Hey guys, good morning. It is Tiffany Allen here. If this is our first time connecting and this is your first time watching a video of mine, I am a clinical hypnotherapist and a toxic relationship recovery coach. I help women suffering from low self-esteem after a toxic relationship of any kind. That could be a mother, father, friend, lover, whoever it may be that is toxic and has treated you wrongly. I help you to regain your confidence and your happiness quickly because this doesn't have to be a lifelong thing. Suffering from low self-esteem is never, this is just the way that I am, or this is just the way that life is. It is never like that. And you have the power to reclaim your life. You have the power to recreate your future. And so that's why I'm here to help. And if that is you and this is relating to you and your situation, please reach out to me. I do free calls. I'll just say this real quick before I dive into the content. But if you are suffering and if this is you, please, if you are interested in a free call, I do free calls. We talk about your situation. We get you out of your head. We start to focus on your future and have you believing that you can absolutely recreate your future and have the confidence and belief in yourself and raise your standards, raise your self-worth, everything. So if that's you, click the cover photo in my profile and there is a link and you can go into that link and you can find the best time to chat in your time zone, whatever day you choose, whatever works for you. So I am going to talk about how to disarm a toxic person, especially if you're a people pleaser. Because a lot of times I think we find ourselves in these toxic relationships putting up with the BS that really we don't deserve because we want to make other people happy. Because we put ourselves below other people. We put other people before ourselves. We put ourselves on the back burner. And that ends up leaving us with low self-esteem. It leaves us with us feeling exhausted and emotionally drained because we're not taking care of us. So these are some simple ways that you can take into your life right now so you can start to disarm the toxic person in your life, whether that be a parent or a lover or a sister or whoever it may be. And maybe you've left the toxic relationship, but you still have to deal with them because of your kids. This could be that sort of situation. So if you guys are popping on live today, let me know you're here. Say, hey, good morning. And if you're watching the replay, just say hashtag replay in the comments. I guess you don't even have to say hashtag. Just let me know you've been here. I like to know who's watching and I like to communicate with you guys in the comments back and forth. So I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to disarm these toxic people in your life. So avoid playing in their reality. So what I mean by this is that toxic people usually have this victim mentality. So what I mean by that is that these toxic people always blame. They shift the blame to other people. They always have a different story that actually really didn't happen. They may feel like you're always the bad person. You're always making them feel shitty. You're always doing the wrong things. You're the problem. They're never the problem. They're the victim of the situation. When in reality, if you've dealt with the BS and you put up with this stuff for far too long, you are the victim. You are the one that is dealing with this. You are the one that is trying and putting in the work and trying to make this work. And so a lot of times they shift the blame. Their reality isn't exactly how it happened. So do not let yourself be consumed and involved in that reality. Because I think a lot of times these toxic, narcissistic people, if they are narcissistic, they will have you believing that something happened a certain way when you know for a fact that it didn't happen that way. And then it can start to make you feel crazy and start to make you question yourself. So avoid playing in their reality. Stand your ground by reminding yourself that the reality that they're playing, that the reality that they're shifting the blame in isn't and doesn't have to be your reality. It doesn't have to be your reality. So keep reminding yourself what's really happening here. Start to become aware of what's really happening here and don't play into the reality. So another thing you can do is just do not let yourself get drawn in. So it's so easy to fight with them and bicker and argue back and forth, and you know that you're right and you know that your reality and the way you've seen things happen and the way you feel is valid. So when this person is attacking you and making you feel a certain way and just being really super toxic, it can be easy to be drawn in to where you engage in the fight. You get so angry and stand your ground, and then it is an emotionally draining experience, because then you're left at the end of the conversation, at the end of the argument, feeling unfulfilled because you weren't heard, because this toxic person wasn't willing to hear you out. And so don't engage, don't get drawn into the situation. Instead of fighting and trying to stand your ground, just keep reminding yourself that the reality that they're playing in is different from your reality. Your reality, you know what happened, you know how you feel, you know that they disregarded you and that they're playing the victim. So just don't engage. When they start to attack you or start to come at you for different things, or whatever the case may be for you in your particular situation, just say, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's a phrase you can use. I'm sorry you feel that way. It kind of shuts it down. It lets them know that you're not open for fighting. You're not open for draining your energy. I know how it goes. Like, I remember fighting and yelling and becoming this person I didn't really even know anymore, because I was so angry and so bitter and like engaging in the fight, and I hated it, because at the end of the time we were done, nothing was solved, and I was drained, I was exhausted, and I was on edge, and I was stressed, and it turned the entire day around. I may have been having a good day, and then that engagement, that fight happened, and then my day is kind of ruined because I let the toxicity overwhelm me. So do not let yourself get drawn in. Just simply say, I'm sorry you feel that way, and move on. Don't try to level with them and try to have them understand how you feel, because a toxic person probably isn't willing to hear what you have to say. And if they are willing to hear what you have to say, they probably aren't willing to change it. My daughter's playing in the background. So don't be tempted to yell. Don't be tempted to fight. Don't be tempted to engage. Don't get drawn in. Another thing you guys can do is to pay attention to how they make you feel. So again, I think a lot of times we can make excuses for toxic people, like, oh, they're family. Oh, they are, they mean well. Oh, they had a bad childhood, and we make these excuses for how these people are treating us. So if you can start to like pay attention to how these people are making you feel, and recognize that if a person is making you feel negatively over and over and over and over again, that is very toxic. You probably already understand that. You probably already know that it's very toxic to you. So do not apologize. You probably do apologize, but do they apologize? Do they apologize for how they're making you feel? When you come to them, you may confront them and say, hey, like, this hurt me. Like, this didn't make me feel very good. Or you talk about it and they want to shove it under the rug. They don't want to move on. They don't want to get over it with you. They don't even want to hear you out. And maybe they do want to hear you out and they want to hear what's going on. But do they apologize to you? Do they ever say, like, in a sincere apology, like, I'm sorry, you know what, like, I did wrong, I'm sorry? And do they understand, or are they willing to understand how what they say and do affects you? If they're not even willing to hear it, that's very, very toxic. And over time, that can beat you down. That's where the low self-esteem comes in. That's where the low self-confidence comes in. That's where the not feeling good enough comes in, because and not wanting to even speak your emotions or talk about the situations that bother you because you were like shut down so many times. And so ask yourself, do they apologize? Are they even willing to understand how what they say and do affects you? If they're not, probably best to get out. It's probably best to do what you can to protect your energy, to protect your soul, to protect your spirit, protect your mind and your body. So another thing you guys can do is also to remind yourself that just because people have personal struggles, just because they went through hard times, just because they may have had a bad childhood, or they may have been treated wrongly, or they may suffer with their own personal problems, maybe in their mind, maybe in their life, whatever it may be, doesn't excuse toxic behavior. Being hurt and being sad or disempowered or abused person doesn't excuse you treating other people like crap. So remind yourself to do that too. Do not excuse toxic behavior just because of all of that, because they went through hard times. It doesn't excuse it at all, and it's not okay. And so you should put yourself first. I made it in my story today that, like, so many of us are putting ourselves on the back burner, and we're not worrying about our needs and our desires and our wants. And you need to. Like, it is not selfish to care about yourself and to take care of yourself. It is necessary. Or if you don't make time for yourself, and if you don't take yourself off that back burner and start to take care of yourself, you will eventually find yourself emotionally drained. You will find yourself struggling. You will find yourself not even recognizing who you are. So take yourself off that back burner and put yourself first. Start doing it. And it may seem like it feels really weird to do that, and it feels really selfish to do that, but keep reminding yourself it's not selfish, it's necessary. It's not selfish, it's necessary. And then eventually you'll start to enjoy life again. So, and also make sure that you conserve your energy. Like, again, like there's this technique that I had learned because I deal with the toxic person in my life sometimes. And so I learned this technique where every time we engage and we have maybe a stressful situation where it would turn into a fight or an argument, and I know that I'm not going to be heard, nothing's going to be resolved, I kind of put a imaginary, and this sounds weird, but I put an imaginary like guard or shield in between us to conserve my energy. Like, okay, your toxicity is over there. And I don't say it out loud, I just picture it in my mind energetically. Like, your toxicity is over there. Your anger is over there. Your just whatever's going on with you that could make me, usually would draw me in and make me feel negative in a certain way. All that's over there on your side. I'm conserving my energy over here. I feel good over here. I'm not letting all that other energy seep out over here. I'm containing it. I'm conserving it. I'm feeling good, and I'm going to feel energized and ready for the day to take on the rest of my day, no matter how you feel over here. So that's a technique you guys can use too. Shrina, good morning. My ex brought out my toxic behavior and turned out every situation on me, so it was always my fault. Yep, very, very, very common. And it sucks because then that's where you find yourself. Am I the narcissist? Am I the toxic person in this? Is everything happening because I'm crazy or I'm toxic? What are you doing? And so, like, honestly, if you are asking yourself if you're the toxic person, if you're asking yourself that question, you are probably not the toxic person, because toxic people, if they're not willing to change, they aren't willing to change. They aren't willing to hear you out. They aren't willing to change. They aren't willing to do the work to better the situation. Hey, Kendra. Hey, Natalie. Good morning. So, you're not the toxic person if you are willing to change. You're not the toxic person if you are willing to put in the work. If you are looking into information, if you're watching videos, if you're searching for answers, you are not the toxic person. Toxic people want to stay that victim. They want to keep the problem, because it's not their fault. It's everyone else's fault. Why? Hey, Natalie. Why do they have to belittle you? From my standpoint, I feel like people belittle you because they are hurt. Because it's a projection. And that's another thing. When I would, like, be called names and be put down, I would, like, start reminding myself. And I would even say it out loud sometimes. Like, you do not think that about me. That is not true about me. This is a projection of how you feel about yourself. I'm not putting up with it. I'm not going to consume your energy. I'm not going to hear it out. I'm not going to even think a second thought about it or even question myself about it, because that is your energy over there. That is your projection. That is how you feel about yourself. And I get to choose how I feel about me. And that's what it all comes down to, is you get to choose what you believe about you. You have two choices too. You could sit there and take all this shit. I say shit because that's what it is. All this belittling shit from this person, and you could take it on as your truth. You could take it on as your story. You could believe it, and you could find reasons and things that have happened in your life to prove that. Or you could stand your ground and say, this is a projection. This is what you think about yourself, and I don't have to think it. This is maybe what you think about me, but I don't have to think it. I don't have to believe it. And that gives me goosebumps, because it's so freaking true that we have the power to choose how we feel about ourselves, and when we become aware of how powerful we truly are, nothing anyone says can take us down. We have that power. And so that is a lot of my work, is helping women to recognize their freaking power and take their power back and recreate themselves and recreate their lives and understand how truly powerful they freaking are. I love this work. So, thanks. And it is shit. Yes, it is shit. So conserve your energy. Find ways that work for you to conserve your energy as best as you can, because it can be really tempting to want to argue and to want to play into the toxicity. Another thing you guys can do is to offer love. Like, if you're still dealing with this person and you love them, and maybe you're tempted to go back sometimes and try to make it work again and again and again, or maybe they're a family member, maybe they're a child, maybe they're a sister, maybe they're a parent, whatever they may be, you may feel some sort of love to them. So offer them love. Like, just offer them, like, maybe send them some articles that you've been reading on to help them help themselves. But do not try to fix them, because toxic people more than likely want to be that victim. Again, they want to be that victim. They like the problem, because the problem is always with other people in their mind. They believe it's with other people. It's never with them, and they aren't willing to change. So even if you put all your effort into trying to help this person heal, even if you put all your effort into helping this person try to get through this situation, try to better themselves, you give them all the tools, they probably aren't going to be willing to do it, because they feel better sitting in that crap. They feel better sitting in the victim mentality than actually putting in the work. They're not willing to do the work. And no matter how many years you try to help them be happy or to help them fix the situation, it will never work, and it will end up with you being emotionally and physically and spiritually and overwhelmed and exhausted. And you need to conserve your energy, because you probably have kids. You probably have an entire life outside of them that you should be focusing on, but then you're not focusing on all of that, and you're not focusing on your personal growth and your well-being because you're so focused on making this person happy. If you can only make people happy if they're willing to make themselves happy. They have to make themselves happy first. They have to be willing to do that. And if they're not, do not try to help them. Do not try to fix them. Say, yeah, you know what? I really care about you. I really love you. Like, I hope for the best, and have that good heart. Because if you are in a toxic relationship and you are looking for answers, you probably have a very, very good heart and you really care deeply. And that sometimes is your, kryptonite. But I think that's the word I'm looking for. But please know that you will never fix them if they're not willing to fix themselves. They have to do that. That's a requirement for you guys to move on together. And if they're not, you might as well just let them go and say no and leave. If it is I made a post the other day that said, if their action and behavior is happening over and over and over again, it's not a mistake. It's not a mess up. It's not, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. It is a behavior, and it's usually a behavior they're not willing to change. And so if it's taking an emotionally toxic toll on you, and you're finding yourself with low self-esteem, you find yourself suffering, you find yourself feeling low about yourself and your life, say no and leave. Get out as soon as possible, because the second you get out is when you start your healing journey. The second you get out is when you start to better yourself and start to choose you and choose your happiness. So I wish I would have done it sooner, just so I could conserve more of myself. And now I've rebuilt myself, and it's been 3 years. And just know that no matter how scary it may be, it's necessary if this is you. So another thing you also can do is to remind yourself that you are worthy and you are not at fault. Again, you are not the toxic person. I feel like we're human. Like, we all have different toxic things. We have toxic traits. Everyone does. We say things we don't mean. We do things out of character sometimes. But if you're willing to change, if you're willing to look into more information, if you're willing to become aware of what you're doing and start to do that internal work and outside work, external work, you are not the problem. You are trying to fix the problem, but you are not the problem. And it's like that whole thing, it's not me, it's you. Like, literally. it's them. Because if they're not willing to hear you out, if they're not willing to respect you, if they're not willing to try, because people make mistakes, but if they're not willing to try and say, you know what, I messed up, I'm sorry, I understand, I'm willing to work on this, and they're not coming from it a point where you're about to leave and they're just saying that because that's what they think you need to hear. If they're willing to do the work and you see them trying to do the work and trying, then that's worth keeping. But if they're not, if you're being disrespected over and over and over again, and it's a constant battle within yourself and with them, that is toxic. That's not healthy. So if this is you, if you are struggling with low self-esteem and you're struggling with an internal battle within yourself because of this toxic person in your life or this toxic person in your past, reach out to me. I'm here to help. I do free calls every week, and I kind of talked about this in the beginning of the video, but I give free calls away every week. So in the description of my cover photo or like banner, I have a link where you can click and you can find the best time for you to chat. It's totally free. I love to help women get out of their head. I love to help women get some clarity in their mind and in their life to realize and maybe make those shifts and maybe become aware of like what is really going on. So if this is you, if you're interested, click the link and find the best time for you. But I'm going to jump off here, and I hope you guys have an amazing freaking day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.